Hello everyone! Welcome back to my Pokemon Black walkthrough. I'm your host, DeoGenZ, and you fools are impatient! Haha, I'm only kidding. No, but I've been quite busy this week. Sorry for lagging on this walkthrough here. I really have a lot more recorded than I'm letting released, but due to so much editing that I have to do because it is DS footage, ergo it doesn't run at full frames per second when I'm playing on the emulator. There is all the post-recording to do, and I edit out all the battles, plus speed up the battles so I can show you guys tons more in just one episode. And this episode is definitely heavy on the sped-up battles. The musical compositions are my own, and I did that on purpose because I want to stop having copyright claims rain down on my head. So let's find a burn heal first. Invisible item, didn't even know it was there. And start the battles! I highly recommend that you battle every trainer that is in this desert and up in the desert resort, which is to the northwest, which we'll be going in later this episode. But before you go on to the next town, which is Nimbasa City, I super effectively recommend that you train here and even catch some of the Pokemon that I'm blanking out. Just as a reminder what you can find here in this desert, you can locate Scraggy, Darumaka, which although looks small, pipsqueakish, and unworthy of training, evolves into a rampaging fire ape called Hidurama. And, last but not least, of course he's my favorite from the White Walkthrough, Sandile. All these Pokemon may look puny by appearance, but when trained properly, they can be raised into fit fighters. But for the immediate gym up ahead in Nimbasa City, you're going to be facing an electric-type gym. You're probably going to want to pick up a Sandile. Sandile has the benefit of being a ground and dark type, but also has the disadvantages like being weak to fighting type and bug type moves. Still, I would recommend that you raise the Sandile for the upcoming gym, and you have a couple of options when raising it that you can notice easily if you pay attention to the battle leading up to its capture. What these options I'm talking about are its abilities Moxie or Intimidate. What Intimidate does is when Sandile or its evolution is thrown out onto the field, it lowers your opponent's attack. So it's very good at weakening attacking sweepers that your opponent may lead out with. But again, I'm not going to get too highly technical because this is just the main game, and all that jargon should be saved for the metagame. But you also have another ability to choose from, which is Moxie, and it's the one that I chose inadvertently last walkthrough because I couldn't read Japanese and it just happened to be Moxie. So with luck of the draw we got it, and what it does is after you defeat an opponent with your Sandile, or its evolved form, it will raise its power in an attack, I believe, one stage. So that's pretty impressive. If you invest a good amount of time to catching a Sandile in this location and then training it in the same area, you're going to have a very, very powerful Crocodile on your hands. Because as I talked about in the last episode, EV, which I'm not talking about EV the Pokemon, which some people have been confused about messaging me, but when I say EV, I mean effort values. Effort values are hidden mechanics in the game that make your Pokemon stronger or weaker depending upon which others they face in battle. So the altering of these mechanics... Oh! Timber's evolving! To his final evolution, Timber! I'm just kidding. If you trade Timber with a friend or with yourself and another DS, he will evolve into Conkeldurr. But that's as far as I'm going to take my Girder. I'm going to keep him a Girder for the rest of this walkthrough, just as a simple challenge to myself to see if I can beat the Elite Four in the main game with a overall unevolved and less dependent on evolution strategies team. So as I was saying before about hidden values and effort values, those are what you get for defeating certain Pokemon. And in this area with Scraggy, Darumaka, and Sandile, you get 1 point for defeating them in attack. So you keep spamming those Pokemon, and even though you may not be getting a lot of experience points, you're getting tons and tons of effort value points. I believe the number that you can max out your effort value points is 510, but split that, and that's what you have to each stat you can max out individually. Up ahead is the Desert Resort. And this is where you can gain some extra experience points after you train in that desert on Route 4 for effort values. But this will make your Sandile that you catch very powerful in attack, and if he's got a ground move that's physical, he's going to wreak havoc at the gym. While searching the Desert Resort, you have an option of 2 additional Pokemon to capture here that you couldn't find on Route 4, and that is a Maractus, which is the new Cactus Pokemon of the 5th Gen, which I love, and I will be trying to catch in this episode, so stay tuned for that. And also, Dweebles can be found here, and if you've never seen a Dweeble, trust me you have if you've watched every episode of this walkthrough, but it's a Hermit Crab Pokemon that is a rock type / bug type Pokemon. And if you don't remember or don't recall from the past episodes, because it was a couple months ago or weeks ago, time spacing anyway, but back in Berg's gym, I think some of the Harlequins had a Dweeble. And I've trained a Dweeble in my cartridge game, and I gotta say, it's pretty powerful. It's another good option if you don't want to raise a Sandile for having an alternate ground move. It may be a rock bug type Pokemon, but it can learn handy ground moves such as Dig and Earthquake from TM. And we just got Dig in this past episode from that construction team south of the Desert Resort. So that works very well if you plan to raise a Dweeble. I have to say, something about Black and White that I really, really love is the programming of the game. I know this probably isn't an element discussed in many other walkthroughs, but the programming of the game and all the RPG elements in it, when they decide to implement certain Pokemon where, what items they decide to give you in certain areas, I think they did an excellent job in this game. They give players many options of Pokemon to raise, many more than I originally thought when I was doing my Japanese walkthrough, but they give you plenty of options. They make the player make decisions about evolution or choosing to not evolve Pokemon for greater moves at a shorter time frame. I love those elements, and it really seems to be exercised much better and more balanced in Black and White than in the past generation games. Who knows, maybe I am just all about Black and White fever right now, but I am loving them. And how about you guys? What do you think of Black and White, especially now that the Dream World is functional, the global link is all connected, and Seagear should be working great if you have people in the area who have Pokemon. So I suppose it works very well for people in school who have Pokepals, but outside of schools and other gaming areas like that, if you work in a gaming industry, maybe a journalist, I couldn't see you really using Seagear very often. Maybe you could use it when you visit Nintendo World in New York City. Of course, you're kind of out of luck if you're far away from New York City. Something that I've noticed though, and I was thinking about doing a revamp video on, was that I was getting a lot of comments on the Black City and White Forest videos that I did, asking about how can I get this to work, my city or forest is empty, yada yada yada, this is bull. And it is bull, exactly my point, my original point when I was playing that game. The fact that we have to only be able to build up our cities and forests through Seagear, which gives us no option for Wi-Fi. So let me know below, what do you guys think? Should I make a follow-up video to that? Do some kind of rant or something? I don't know. Super Potion. I'm not sure why they call this the Desert Resort. I know that there is a structure, kind of a relic, I would think, in the center of this desert but I'm not seeing any pools or spas nearby. It's funny to see my girder slap Maractus around in super speed. Slap, slap, slap. Oh! Died from bleeding. What happened, sir? I was smacking Cactus. Why were you doing that? It challenged me to a battle. I had no choice. Hey, next time just chuck your balls at it. Oh, that won't hurt. And this, too. Doctors and nurses. That's another great thing that they implemented. That was another excellent mechanic that they didn't really work in the past games. It was either the route was pretty short and it was in good distance between Pokemon centers on each side, or you would have to fly to a Pokemon center on an obscure route. Having doctors and nurses along the way makes it excellent, and it allows you to walk around and motivates you to explore more, especially with the weather effects and also the seasonal changes. I've been noticing more weather effects in my cartridge game, and it's good because at first I was a little disappointed thinking there was lacking weather effects. But it also could be that it's springtime in my game, so there's greater chance of rain. And you know, speaking of rain, rain was actually part of the reason that the Black Walkthrough was impeded in a way. Recently here in New Jersey, we've been having hella rainstorms for some reason. There's a big front, the last fight, or what I thought was the last fight a couple months ago, between winter and spring is still occurring. And a warm front comes, and then a cold front is here, and then rain, and then thunder. And yes, we caught Maractus! So we completed our goal of catching our very own cactus. We won't slap this one around. It uses an up-tempo song and dance to drive away the bird Pokemon that prey on its flower seeds. That's good. I wonder if it fights off Bear Grylls when he's looking for a cactus to suck on in the desert. I'm going to keep Maractus the same name that he be, just because I'm still learning the names, and I like to get familiarized with them all. Heart Scale, very important that you pick that item up there, because that will allow you to get your Pokemon to learn moves that they couldn't in past levels. I didn't really explain that well, so say you have a level 30... or, no, not even level 30, but just, you got a Samurott, say, traded over GTS, and it had some moves on there that you didn't want it to know, or it learned too many moves and doesn't have the move Sword Dance. So what you can do is take it to a person who will be meeting upcoming in the game, and I'll be sure to point it out with big red arrows when we find her or him. Haha, leave you suspenseful. But when we find them, you give them a heart scale, and they will help your Pokemon relearn a move that they knew in a past level. So that's a more thorough explanation of it all. Oh, and before I get more comments on Repel, I said this, I believe, in my Crystal video, but for people who don't watch that, because I know there's some who aren't into retro games, but I'm doing it because it's my favorite Pokemon game, and I am a Pokemon LPer. But I will not be using Repels for a good majority of this game, because I train up my Pokemon in that time, in that battle, and you just don't need to see that or waste time doing it. We see all the Pokemon we need to in the battles that are sped up, and also there are very minor battles that would be repeated and boring to see and watch. Since I edit them out, it's not a big deal, but I know for some very OCD people, having me make so many jump cut edits from wild Pokemon encounters could drive them mad. Just use Repel! Oh yeah? Just use Experience Share! I actually don't like Experience Share. I much rather switch out Pokemon that lead with stronger ones in my other team, but hey, that's just me. So we've come to the end of this very jam-packed episode of training and catching. In the next episode, we'll be going inside the Desert Resort ruins. See you then.